Hello everybody and welcome to Tech Daily. This is the beta test episode of Red Tie Media's newest addition to the lineup. It is a daily technology news show and social media news show, all of the tech and social media news that was important in the day in a bite-sized and compact form, less than 10 minutes, available in video, audio, and live right over there. You can check us out at Ustream and ustream.tv, and you can check, that link is always available at the website, but this is a beta episode. So what this means is I'm looking for feedback, I'm looking for what people want to see in this, and what you think. The idea right now is we'll do a 5 to 10 minute daily tech news show, and that each day we'll have a top story, and what's going to happen is at the end of the week, you will be able to vote on on the order. All of our top stories from each day of the week, Monday through Friday, will be available for you to vote on, and you'll be able to pick in what order they go on Status Update. So we're going to talk and elaborate about all the stories we talk about on this show on Status Update. But what you'll be able to do is vote on them and say, this is the best story of the week, this is the biggest story of the week, or this is the biggest story, or this wasn't that important. And then what's going to happen is you'll be able to shape what we talk about on Status Update based through this show as well as your votes. And we'll discuss the top 5 stories of the week on Status Update in our top 5 segment to start each show. So that's how it's going to work. It's less than 10 minutes in a very consumable, bite-sized format. We're going to keep the facts straight with you. You're going to really be able to give the opinion in these shows. I will throw in my 2 cents here and there, but this is kind of the idea. We're going to test it today, tomorrow, and Friday, and then if all goes well, everybody likes it, we get good feedback, we'll start it as a full-time production on Monday. With that said, let's not waste any time because the big story this week, or today rather, I'm used to Status Update, was the iPad. The iPad announcement from Apple was at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Tim Cook took to the stage. He was on the stage for a little over an hour discussing many things, not just the iPad. We'll get to some of the other things in a minute. The iPad obviously being the big one. And the interesting thing, we'll go over some of the specs, what's different between the iPad and the iPad 2. But let's go over what we know. The Retina display, it's 2048 by 1536 resolution. Fantastic display. That's a better resolution than most HD televisions out there, which is a 1920 resolution. So fantastic resolution. That was expected. What else was expected that we saw was LTE. You'll be able to get this iPad on AT&T and Verizon LTE. It'll run you a little bit more, but it won't be any more expensive than what you would have got the 3G iPad 2 on any of those networks for. What it doesn't have that we expected was a quad-core processor. People thought the A6, Apple A6 processor would be in this particular unit. It is not. It's a dual-core Apple A5X processor. What this means is you're still running a dual-core processor as your CPU, but the GPU, the graphics processing, is actually dual-core. So that's one of the big upgrades, is because of this Retina display and because of the higher quality camera, which is a 5-megapixel rear camera, they needed a higher graphic processing, so they put a dual-core graphic processing in it. So that is something big. Other than that, we really don't have many other new features. 4.0 Bluetooth is the only real big difference. It is slightly bigger than the iPad 2. It's 9.4 millimeters compared to 8.8 millimeters for the iPad 2, and it's a little heavier by about 1/10 of a pound. So nothing too profound there. A bigger battery. Apple does say that the battery life is the same. So on the previous iPad, the iPad 2, you would be able to get 10 hours and then 9 hours with 3G service. On this particular iPad, it's going to be 10 hours and 9 hours as well, and that includes 4G. And that is a big surprise because if anybody who has a 4G phone knows, 4G can be a giant sucker of energy and power. So that's kind of big news as well. So that's kind of what we know of the iPad. Now, the other interesting thing about this that I want to get viewers' opinions on, and we'll definitely talk about on Status Update, is the fact that the iPad, the new one, is not the iPad 3. It is not the iPad HD, which were the 2 names tossed around by the media beforehand. It is rather just the new iPad. If you go to their website, it's called the new iPad. It is simply called iPad. Which is an interesting choice for Apple because you are still selling the iPad 2, and we'll get to that in a minute, but the iPad 2 is still for sale, but it is just called the new iPad or just iPad. Want your opinions on that? Let us know in the comments section of the video or the audio, and we'll talk about it on Status Update, which you can listen to on Sunday or Monday whenever we decide to do that particular show. Jared's out of town, so we'll let you know there. The other big news and what a lot of people thought about was, okay, are we going to see an iPad mini? If we don't see a 7-inch iPad, are we going to see iPad 2 continue production? And that's exactly what is happening. iPad 2 will continue production, albeit in only one model, so you'll only be able to get the 16 gig iPad 2 in either a 3G or a Wi-Fi only model. The price will be $399 and $529, so a pretty good deal there, and trying to go down a little more on the price point. This seems to be Apple's response to the selling of the Kindle Fire is, we're not going to make a 7-inch iPad. What we'll do is we'll take the old iPad and we'll just lower the price by $100. $399 is a pretty comparable, really good price point for the iPad 2, and $529 for a 3G version is only $30 more than the old Wi-Fi only version. So really good prices there, and we'll see how those sell. That seems to be Apple's kind of response there to the Amazon Kindle Fire. Other things that were announced on stage by Tim Cook, Apple did release iOS 5.1, which is a minor upgrade for most users. It will include Siri in Japanese, so you will see Siri support if you are in Japan, and it does have a new camera app, which is a big deal. Some other announcements for the iPad is iPhoto. iPhoto was never on the iPad, now available on the iPad, which makes sense considering the iPad will now sport a much heftier 5-megapixel camera, so that's good news for Apple. But nothing else there. The other thing we did talk about that people were surprised about, no Siri support on the newest iPad. So that's interesting as well. And Apple TV was upgraded. Apple TV has now been refreshed to a 1080p content, 1080p interface as well. That's really the only big difference. There is a new processor, went from the A4 to the A5. But other than that, the big thing with the refreshed Apple TVs are the HD support. So that's all your Apple news and what happened at the Apple press conference. We will elaborate on that so much more on the upcoming episode of Status Update number 8. Check redtie.tv/SU for the latest information on when we will live tape and when you can receive that episode. Some other news that was more yesterday, but we will kind of shift into today because most Android users are getting this update. This is Google's new market, and it's not a market anymore. It's a market, but it's not called that. It's called Google Play. This is Google's opportunity, and what they're trying to do is mesh everything into one umbrella, really easy to use. No longer called Market, called Google Play. So you have Play Books, you have Play Music, Movies, and then Android apps. If you got this pushed to you, you will see it on your phone. If you go to the Android Market on the interwebs, you will see it labeled as Google Play now. So that is kind of a new rebranding effort from Android, and we will talk extensively about this on the latest episode of Status Update. One other thing to note in the social media world, this is an interesting, a little bit of a hack for Facebook. It's called Friendsheet, and it is a kind of a Pinterest redo sort of thing, a kind of a way for Facebook to mimic Pinterest, so to speak. It is not endorsed by Facebook, except for the fact that CEO Mark Zuckerberg liked it yesterday, and it went from 60,000 uniques to 150,000 uniques in 24 hours. But it's an interesting way to display information in Facebook in a Pinterest-style format that we don't normally see. So that's interesting as well. If Facebook were to integrate this, think about it this way. When Google Plus came out and we had the unique opportunity of circles in Google Plus, Facebook didn't take much time to mimic that using the subscribe feature and using the feature where you can push it out to certain groups of friends and grouping your friends into lists and then pushing status updates out to certain lists. We wouldn't be surprised really to see a Facebook kind of Pinterest sort of copycat to kind of integrate that into Facebook a little more so Pinterest doesn't completely suck away a lot of people, although I don't think people are going to Pinterest and spending less time on Facebook, but maybe they are. What do you think about it? It's called Friendsheet if you want to check it out. Check out the show notes. And it's actually a really cool way to display things on Facebook, especially photos. That is Tech Daily for you. All the tech news you need from the day in one bite-sized, easy-to-consume format. You can check us out at redtie.tv. We don't know what the website will be yet because this is a beta test, but you can check us out live. We will generally tape at 7 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday, and we'll have a big story and then some other news for you, and we will elaborate so much more on this stuff on the next episode of Status Update, which will be either Sunday or Monday. Check the website for more information. I would like to know your feedback about the show. Please tweet me at Jacob Bodner or respond to this video or audio with a comment and let me know. Or Jacob at redtie.tv will get it to me as well. Thanks for checking us out. We'll have another beta test episode Thursday and Friday, so we'll see you then.